really leaning in to Chucky.
Your Chucky outfit. It's on. It looks great. It's because your hair is adding to it. I think if you didn't have the pinkish hair, it really is looking more red.
I know.
I think it's a lighting.
No, it is. It is more red.
I do like it like that. We will see maybe different variations of pink.
Oh, yeah. I feel like this is going to be the next couple months of pink. Hues of pink.
Shades of pink. I'm looking forward to it. I need a haircut myself because, well, my hair is quite long. Looking down at it, I just am like, it's upsetting when the bottom of your hair has no split ends, but up like a couple inches above, like my layers do. And so in order to get the split ends off, I would need to chop a bunch of hair, even though the very bottoms of my hair are fine.
Okay, but you have been saying you wanted to do like a full chop, like a lob.
I know. I think I'm going to do it right before I give birth. Just so I don't have to worry
That's such like a transition to motherhood.
Well, and also it's like less hair to take care of. And I'm not really going to be seeing many people. I don't look good with a lob. But
I will say though,
it'll be
for
something.
Me, and I don't know if this applies to you, but having shorter hair actually takes way more work.
Yeah. I put very little effort into doing my hair though. So it either air dries or I just use the Dyson blow dryer and just do the straight like brush tool.
Right.
So,
but if you can do that with short hair, great. Like if I just let my short hair just dry, it would literally look like a poof ball.
I agree. My long hair is like that too. It's gross.
Hair is just difficult.
But ghosts are not.
Well,
that's not true at all. But this is Two Girls, One Ghost.
Two Girls, One Ghost. And we are your ghostesses. That's Corinne. I'm Sabrina. Hello. This is an Encounters episode where we read back to you your stories. So if you're just new and joining us here for the first time, please, if you have any paranormal encounters, whether it's your personal story or if it's a friends or family members or the haunted house that you went to and didn't realize it was haunted until you woke up at 3 a.m. and someone was staring at you, email us those stories. We would love to read them. We will share them on the podcast. You can write in anonymously and say, don't share my name. You can create a fake email. You can, I don't know, scare the living bejesuses out of our toes and our nails.
And our toesies and our nails.
I don't know why I went nails, like fingertips. I don't know.
Startle it all.
But you can email all of them to us.
This is called The Little Girl Everyone Saw, But Only I Heard. Hi, gorgeous ladies. Hello. My name is Kyla. Which, yes, you can use my name because I love the spotlight. I found your podcast a few months ago and I've been listening to it ever since, especially Encounters and the demonic episodes. I live in England, more specifically Kent, which you're probably aware of as it has this lovely haunted home in the village Pluckley. Do we know about that?
I think I covered this.
I know it sounds familiar, but I'm like, am I just making this up?
False You never know with us.
So quite an area for activity. I grew up in a house which used to be Victorian cottages, but then it was knocked down and it was rebuilt in the 30s. So to say I saw some shit is an understatement.
Hell yeah.
To start this story, it's important to add that my mom is quite spiritual. She actively does Reiki, tarot readings, goes to meditation groups and drumming circles, and hosts psychic parties every 6 to 12 months, which is always loads of fun. That sounds amazing.
My mom growing up did like bunko parties every couple of months.
Drunko. That's the nickname for bunko.
Yeah. I feel like this is Kyla's mom's version is like seances.
Totally. Oh my God. So cool.
So cool.
Growing up around this has opened my sister and I up quite naturally, and we're both receptive to these types of encounters. My parents bought this house around 25 to 30 years ago, and we've since moved, but they had it for years. My mom, upon moving into this house, said she always felt the presence of this young girl, and she always used to ask her to show herself to her, but this girl never did. Until one night when I was around 5 to 10-ish years old, my mom was and always has been a midnight pisser and would always get up and go for a wee to the bathroom down the hall from her and my bedroom. Is that what it's called? A midnight pisser?
I didn't know, but I like it.
I didn't know that either. I think I am too.
I will happily take on that badge of honor.
Who holds it all night? Not me. Being a child who always felt a presence in my bedroom, I didn't sleep too well, so when she would go to the toilet, I'd usually join her as I was too frightened to go on my own. My mom also never turned on the light, which was a different level of bravery. Well, one night, my mom got up for a wee, and she said that she was sitting on the toilet, completely naked, by the way, which is relevant, I promise, in the dark when she saw me walk down the hallway in the corner of her eye and stop in the doorway of the bathroom. She told me to get back into bed, but when I did not move nor speak, she turned to look at me, only to realize it was not me. She said it scared her and was also very aware that this child was seeing her naked, sitting on the loo. She covered her eyes and begged her not to reveal herself to her, and the girl disappeared. To say I never went wee on my own at night after that was an understatement.
I can't believe her mom shared that with her the next day. Like,
I know. Yes.
hey, remember how you usually come pee with me? Well, now a little ghost girl does.
Oh my gosh, that's so something my mom would do. I wasn't going to tell you because I don't want to scare you. And then she'll just tell me. And then I'll be scared.
Right.
My mom also had a few friends who were particularly spiritual, one of them being able to see ghosts as clear as people, like could walk past one in the street and wouldn't even know that they were dead. One night they were over having some drinks, and my mom's friend, who we'll call Lucy, was coming downstairs when, through the banister, she saw a small shadow move along the hallway and towards the dining room door. When she got to the table, she asked if anyone had seen this, which is when my mom's other friend, who can see dead people, let's call her Sam, confirmed what she saw and said that the little girl had walked down the hallway, stopped in the doorway, looked at everyone before turning and walking back down the hallway. Sam told her that maybe she was just curious and she didn't recognize anyone, like the behavior that a small child would have. Years later, when I was around 16 and my sister was 21, we were staying at home while my mom and my dad had disappeared on holiday for a week. And my sister's boyfriend disappeared. They're like, we're going on holiday. We're not telling you where we're going. Don't bother us. Stay alive. That's all.
Do not contact us. Do not try.
My sister's boyfriend of the time was staying over, and he hadn't been there before. My sister said that she got up in the middle of the night to go for a wee, and as she left her room, she saw the little girl standing outside of my bedroom door, and that she looked just like me.
Oh.
My sister said that she thinks that this little girl was checking on me and her, as she didn't know my sister's boyfriend very well, but still. My sister didn't tell me about that experience until we moved out because this kid freaked me out. Now, I've also had a friend see her who we will call Maddie. We were around 15 or 16 years old at the time, and we'd just been to the shop. I chased her back home as a fun game, and when we got inside, we were still racing when I gave up as she slipped out of her trainers while I had big old Doc Martens on and no shoes are allowed on the carpet. I sat down on the box to unlace my shoes when I heard Maddie let out a laugh and then a scream. Thinking she tripped up the stairs in a hurry, I laughed as I walked around the corner to look at her sitting on top of the stairs. "Are you okay? What are you screaming at?" I asked. Color drained from her face. "That wasn't you." When I tell you chills went through me, she said that she was running up the stairs and looked over her shoulder and saw me chasing her and let out a scream of fun fright, only it wasn't me. It was our little ghost girl.
Oh my gosh.
We went everywhere with each other that night after that experience. Oh my gosh, this is like everybody's worst nightmare. It's like when you run up the stairs because you're trying to avoid the ghost, but they're right behind you. You look over your shoulder and their face is right there.
It is, but I love this ghost.
She's playful. She's a kid.
I feel like she feels like siblings to them.
Yeah. To be that friend, I would never go over it ever again.
I know.
And now, time for a story when this little girl spoke to me. I never saw her. The whole 18 years that I lived there, she never showed herself to me because I told her not to because I was scared and it would scare the living shit out of me. So, no reason to. She was sweet and I just didn't really favor her. When we lived in that house, I couldn't sleep in silence. I heard a lot of shit, obviously, and I saw stuff in my mirror and all sorts of crap. Some due to the fact that I played with a Ouija board on my own in that bedroom like an idiot, which I'm happy to share another time if you'd like. I would sleep listening to music in my earphones. One night, I woke up randomly, turned towards my wall away from my bedroom, and I checked my phone to see the time. 3:03 a.m. I remember being really, really tired and my earphones were resting on my ear, so the music was really quiet as my earphone was basically not in my ear. And I remember contemplating pushing it back into my ear, but I decided against it as it was just so comfy, and I thought that if I moved, I would wake up properly. Just as I made that decision, I felt a presence lean over to the side of my head and gently whisper to me in a sweet little girl voice, "What are you doing?" I didn't get scared. In all honesty, I didn't really register it. I just sort of mumbled and I fell asleep, and I didn't think about it until the next morning. I think because she was just a child and she lived in our house, her energy was familiar, so it didn't really seem unnatural to me. I'd recognized her, so I just fell asleep. And when I tell you I shit my pants in the morning, though, anyway, sorry for the length of this episode, but thought you'd enjoy to hear as I've been thinking about sending this in for a while. I have more stories. I actually have some updates on this little girl, but you didn't send them?
What? What are the updates?
Oh, I'm happy to share these with you, but privately, as the updates are a bit sad. Okay.
Oh.
But I do have some more stories about a man who follows my mom, a thing that has growled at me, the cupboard door lover, and also some stories about my new house, which was built in the 1600s, and my mom and I feel a man there, and my friend feels someone else. You guessed it, a little girl. And where is she? My goddamn bedroom.
Is it the same little girl?
I'm curious. Who knows? Maybe.
I hope she followed. That would be so nice because she probably would be so sad without them.
I know. Love you, ladies. Thanks for the podcast. See you on the other side. Kyla.
This is like the ideal resident roommate ghost situation because it's not a creepy little, I mean, it is creepy, but it's not
creepy because you're not expecting it.
Sure, but it's not like a demon posing as a child. This is a little girl who has seen you follow your mom to the bathroom because late at night when she goes, she replicated it. She was following in your footsteps. She's playing with you and your friend. Like, she's checking out what the adults are doing. And she's like, never mind. I don't want to go hang out with the adults. They're boring. I don't know.
So boring.
Love it. I love it so much.
Or it's just like the embarrassment too when you're a little kid and you walk up. It's like all of your social anxiety too, where you just see a bunch of adults that you don't know. And you're just like, I'll just go back to my room.
Backwards. Reverse.
I mean, she does kind of seem like she's just a part of the family.
Yeah.
Especially her curiosity being like, what are you doing? When Kyla's half awake and maybe starting to wake up, partially listening to music. Maybe she like moved her hand to her ear or something. And the little girl's like, what are you doing? Are you awake? Do you want to play?
I meant to tell you this yesterday. I went to a haunted bar in New Hope, Pennsylvania. It's called the Salt House. And it's this like tiny, tiny little bar. I mean, the whole town is really old. This is all along like the Delaware River, Washington crossed the Delaware, all that stuff. So there's a lot of Revolutionary War history. And this old building, I don't know what it used to be, but it's called the Salt House. And it's really small. You walk in, there's like a bar right there. And then there's an upstairs that they've made like a really cool lounge with leather couches and
swanky.
Yeah, you walk in and it's like very moody and it's very historic. You know it's old. But they said it is haunted by a little colonial era girl.
Just a wee girl.
Just a wee girl.
Is she wearing colonial era garb? Is that why they're like, oh, she's definitely from that timeline?
Yeah.
Wow.
So the two bartenders that were working there, one of them was like, I've never seen her. I don't know if I believe in this stuff. The other one was like, I want to see her so bad. But then I think it was mostly like the kitchen staff or people who are there late at night by themselves who have seen her. But she seems to just be like hanging out. It's not really like a scary haunting.
Well, that's good. I would want to see that. I'm very curious how many people have been at the bar just like sitting down eating and had an experience with her and have no
idea. I know.
Yes.
Also, because it's so small, I imagine that if it's fully packed, you would never notice like a little girl running past you.
Yeah.
It would be too packed to notice that.
Well, and then that also makes me wonder if she does appear when there's just a few people there, is it like a group sighting or is it usually just one person?
It's a good question.
Who sees her? Or is the whole bar like, holy shit, ghost girl's here?
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you already know it was haunted going to that bar? And so or did you just ask while you were there?
My mom was like, you have to go to that bar. You know, she has all her spots here and just thought I would like it. And that whole town is pretty historic. I'm pretty sure people have sent us, there might be a metaphysical shop in that town. Oh. And someone has sent us an email about it, but I don't have time really to go see it. But the town is really cute and historic. Okay, I'm going to read a very short email about something we did, Corinne.
Oh,
and that is haunt someone.
Okay. I was like, cue the anxiety. What did I say? I'm sorry.
This is from our listener, Kim. And 2 years ago, in October, we decided to do purely possession stories. Julie's possession, that episode, was, I think, the most haunted of the bunch. And it also caused a lot of hauntings for our listeners. So Kim says, y'all, I was in the mood for something creepy, and I just clicked on Julie's possession video. It was midway through while Corinne was talking, and Sabrina's voice starts talking over her in this creepy as fuck whispering voice saying, she's mine, she's mine. And then, as this is happening, my screen door creaks open and slammed shut. Now, a cabinet door in my basement is opening and shutting. Nope.
No.
Y'all, I will not be finishing this one in my house. Anyway, just wanted to share that I'm going to run some made up errands now so I can get out of the house until my boyfriend gets home. Hope you have a good day.
Shit.
Kim.
Oh my God, Kim, sorry. Okay, wait. That's the episode. I think it's called Julia's Possessed. Is that the one where the flame had moved? Yeah. I actually just revisited that video the other day because I was visiting my friend Talia up in Portland. And she was saying how seeing that video was one of the moments where she was like, because she was like, knowing you, I know that nothing is doctored. I know that you don't have the ability to make that happen. You don't know what you're doing.
No.
With like flames. So she was like, that feels to her like indisputable proof of the paranormal. So we went back into the video and we're really slowly going back and forth. And you see that I'm not moving the camera at all, like the angle, like it truly was just like moving up and down.
Yeah.
So that was from the Julia's Possessed one. Oh my God. Ew.
I'm also just, whenever audio glitches like that and it manipulates us, that is what's so scary. Because it's like, is that a haunting in Kim's place? Is that something that like was triggered in Kim's home? Or is that like something that was happening while we were recording that we were not aware of, that didn't really get picked up, but it still exists in the moment? Like the she's mine. Right. Is that the ghost that took over me for a moment?
It's not like it's on everybody's track, right? That they're listening to. It's just like certain people. And it's so odd because I feel like some of the episodes that we've had too, where people have captured EVPs or people have identified EVPs, sometimes other people will hear it or have the exact same thing happen to them at that exact same moment, and other people won't.
Right.
I don't know.
It's so weird.
It's really scary, especially because it seems to be beyond just the audio for Kim. It's manifesting in other ways with the screen door and the cabinets.
Yep.
Hopefully it was just for that episode. My hope is that episode, we intended for it to be scary. And so it is. And it's like someone is pulling the stage curtains up and they're like, it's showtime, baby. Let's make today horrifying. And then it ends after that because the show is over.
This is like one of my favorite things about a lot of our listeners is that like, and even Kim says, I'm not going to be finishing this episode today in my house. Like, I feel like we all are a little bit sick in the head in the way that it's like, okay, something terrifying just happened. I'm going to pause it for right now, but let me continue in a different environment. It should be good.
It doesn't mean that they're not going to listen. It's just
So I'm curious, Kim, if you finished it, what happened?
I don't know. Do we owe you an apology, or is this you're welcome for experiencing something pretty frightening and cool?
I feel like because it's getting emailed into us and Kim implied that they're going to continue listening, I think it's a you're welcome. You're welcome, Kim.
You're welcome, Kim.
You're so
and you're welcome to everyone else who, between the PTD episode, Julia's Possessed, and even like Rick, I think those 3 episodes have either caused paranormal activity or just caused a lot of nightmares. So
you're welcome.
Oops.
Did I do that?
Did I do that?
Yeah, I did it more in like a weird, like sultry voice, and you did the Urkel. Why did I?
Oh,
I don't know. I think I intended to do Urkel, but something else.
That's what I thought
out.
you. Yeah, I thought we were going the Urkel direction, or we can go Gilly from SNL. Sorry, sexy is not my default. I don't think I've ever naturally been that. So
me neither.
That's not true.
I'm a never nude.
But I think you do a good job of making people wonder what you do look like nude. So this is called my wormhole. Wormhole just sounds wrong after
you know what I'm thinking about is that I've made you wonder what I look like nude for so long because I've told you I've never nude. And then when I finally flashed myself to you, it was like the most monumental moment in your life. So maybe I do a good job of it.
Yeah, it's seared into my brain. I could paint you, Sabrina, from memory. Whereas if you hadn't like ever made a big deal about it, I wouldn't have ever thought about it.
Right.
But it was like, Sabrina's my one friend who's never changed in front of me.
Yeah. Then I full on flashed you
Yeah, you did. And it was on the podcast. It was awesome.
on the podcast.
It was awesome. That sounds so stupid. Best day of my life. Okay, this is called My Wormhole and Time Warp Experience.
Oh.
Hi, Corinne and Sabrina. I've been a longtime listener, and you are all by far my favorite paranormal podcast. My story takes place when I was in high school around sophomore year when me and my good friend from choir, we'll call him T, decided to go to a neighboring town's play with a group of our friends. T and I were carpooling together and running late to the play. We were only 15 minutes late from when the play had started, and our friends texted us saying that the ticket booth was still open and that they saved us seats in the back row on the main floor. I remember us coming up over a hill to the high school and seeing very few lights on. It was wintertime, so even though the play had started at 6, it was almost pitch black. What first occurred to me was that we were maybe at the wrong high school. No parking lot lamps were on, but even stranger was the parking lot was full. T, what the fuck is happening? I said. He sat there with a slightly confused face, but wasn't really as rattled as I was. It's all good. Let's just head in. We're already 15 minutes late, and the guys just texted me saying that they're definitely there, said T. So we hesitantly parked in the far back where a spot was finally open, weirded out by the dark, unlit high school that loomed across the scary-ass, but also dark parking lot, and it felt like we were actually going to a haunted house instead of a play. I'd been in drama, choir, symphony, etc. all of my life, and have been to more plays and concerts in high school than I could count. And my gut said, this is weird.
It is weird.
Me and T shared a look. Then we started walking towards the school with the only light being from our phone flashlights and the far-off dim security lights of the school. I was at the doors first, reached towards the handle, praying for it to be locked, but it wasn't. It opened right up, and T rushed past me into the building. We both slowed down our gait. The school was spooky, y'all. Imagine walking into one of those huge schools with an exposed second story and really high ceilings. Just everything echoed, and it was quieter than quiet.
Ugh.
Dull lights in the corner of each hallway, and only a few security lights every 20 feet or so were on.
I know where this is going, so it's like
Yeah.
the suspense and the uncomfortableness is like so palpable in my body.
True. I can picture this perfectly too, because it does feel like my middle school a little bit, where they would only put on like the most minimal amount of lights possible when they had an event going on after hours. And so if you walked through any of the other entrances, it was so scary. And I recently did that for like a craft fair or something.
Right.
And I was still freaked out by the vibes. And it was like 2 p.m., but it was just like kind of dark in the hallway.
Yikes.
Only a few security lights every 20 feet or so were on. And we had to walk for what took forever down the main, cavernous, dimly lit hallway until we reached the theater. The ticket booth had a single light shining down on it, with the metal security gate drawn all the way down, and no one to be seen, still. So we share a scared look, and T takes my hand. Okay, now I'm really terrified. But we were also so curious. It was quieter than it's ever been in my life. We slowly walk towards the main entrance of the theater, and we walk in at the same time through the double doors. You guys, I'm not shitting you. There was no one in the theater. Not a single soul.
What?
All the house lights were on. The red velvet curtains on stage were drawn with a big spotlight on them. Like when you're being seated and awaiting a show to begin. We were both silent. We were stunned, looking at each other, wide-eyed. After what seemed to be a few minutes in the middle of this empty, creepy theater, we run back out to the hallway ticket booth, and then we both book it. No, not out of the building, but in true scary movie fashion, with you two ladies probably yelling at us right now as I tell this. We ran up the stairs to the balcony level entrance.
Why? Why?
Oh my God. Honestly, we were both in mild shock, and this was autopilot at this point. So we reach the top of the stairs, and I pull the theater entrance doors and slowly walk up the stairs to where the balcony seats were. T stayed at the bottom of the stairs, a little bit more scared than I was at this point, and I went to see if anyone was in the balcony seats. So I reached the top, and again, no one's in the balcony seating either. The house lights are on, the curtains on stage are still drawn, and it's dead silent. I look back down the steps at T, about to scream, when over the stereo speakers in the theater came the loudest recorded applause and cheering thumping over the sound system. Okay, now I scream. We both do. We tear down the stairs again, and T tells me that he has the audacity to go back one more time to the main floor seating just to check again. And I ask, are you actually insane? His phone text message sound dings, and I'm silently crying and I'm shaking, and we look down at the phone and our friend had texted us. Damn, y'all are taking forever. Are you even coming? Everything from this moment on felt like slow motion, like we had walked through a pressure chamber when we walked back into that theater. T is first. I'm trailing behind him now, and we're hand in hand. We open the side of the double doors. We step into the theater, and it's a packed house. In the middle of a scene, with a girl on stage, the spotlight on her, and all of the house lights are off. The door slams behind us. A few people look back annoyed, and we hear our friends shout, whispering our names. What the fuck? Hell no. What is happening? T and I shuffle along to the back row to our seats, and it feels like we're moving through molasses the whole time. We're holding hands through the rest of the play, and we're silent. It was surreal. We were in shock. When the play was over, we walked back into the lobby, shocked by how bright it was. Every single light inside the school was on, and I glance out the window to the parking lot, and all of the lamps are on. We talked the whole ride home about it to our friends, and only some of them believed us. We talked to the ticket booth after the show, and they said that they'd stayed open the whole play, selling concessions. Hell no. I still have no explanation for any of this. Maybe it was a wormhole, a time warp. Would love your thoughts. It was the craziest thing that has ever happened to me. Hope you enjoyed the story. S.
Okay, is it bad that my only question right now is, wait, so did S and T get in for free?
No, well, no, because their friends held tickets for them.
I thought they just like saved seats.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Was this whole wormhole glitch so that you could save $20? I am glad that they were together. I think that is like the only silver lining, in addition to possibly saving money, about this story, because otherwise it is so absolutely confounding and so unexplainable and isolating. Like, even though they experienced it together, like, I feel like more people have experienced alien abductions and can have like some type of camaraderie in that than they've experienced this.
Yeah, I agree. It's so weird too, because it seems like everything was there, right? Like the theater was there, the cars were there, the high school was there, but their experience of it was almost like there was this shield protecting them. Like they had their own invisibility cloak where it was like everything was still happening. I'm so curious, like, could someone
like the
else...
upside down, because like the echo of sounds was still existing.
Yeah. But it also makes me wonder, like, did someone at the ticket booth or like a concession stand or just like someone running to the bathroom see these two looking scared, walking hand in hand? Like, could everyone else see them?
I can't imagine that they would have, because they walked into the theater, the downstairs area, and up in the balcony. So like the doors would have made sounds. Someone, like the friends, would have seen them. I don't know. I just feel like
that's true.
The audience applause thing also really freaks me out, because that's what makes me think it was like some version of the upside down, because there's the echo. Like the existence of reality was still bleeding through whatever they were in.
But it also feels like this creepy, sort of orchestrated, torturous play.
Feels like a prank.
Where it's like, put the laugh track on. Like everyone's laughing at your expense, at your fear, at your confusion. It feels evil.
Have you ever seen the documentary The Push?
No, I don't ever want to, because I think it's so fucked up that they did that.
Yeah, but it is a really interesting psychological experiment. So from that regard, it's interesting.
I feel like they went against all of the rules of a psychological experiment. You don't get to do whatever you want to people just because you have a debrief at the end and provide them therapy. Like,
sure,
you're creating trauma for that person.
Sure, but a lot of like psychological experiments that are notable, I think, end up doing that, which is sad. But
which is why we have the restrictions that we do. We learn about those experiments in school, in psych classes, as examples as to why we have all of these rules now regarding how you go about these experiments. And I feel like everything was thrown out the window with that.
Selfishly, there are a lot of experiences about like human behavior and like social influences that I would love to do that would be so questionable and morally probably not great. But I'm curious.
Yeah, you're curious, but it's like we already have the answer for a lot of those with doing something less extreme.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's just, I have not seen The Push, but does it relate to the story?
Yeah, so it's like the idea of everyone in on something. It's kind of like Jury Duty, that show where like everyone else was in on something. And there was a moment of the story, that S's story, where I was like, it feels like a really mean prank. Like everyone is in on something against you and you're the only one who isn't in on it.
I know, very Truman Show. I did feel bad about Jury Duty too, because he spoke about how much it like did affect him negatively.
How do you trust people after that?
Right. Like always looking around for cameras. Is this interaction? Is this relationship I'm building? Is this real?
Right. Well, this is real. This is from our listener, Jeanyn, she, her. And it is called, That Time a Witch / a Swan liked my sister so much that she almost stopped my entire family from moving to America.
Let's hear it.
Dwarves and beheaded skeletons and ladies in white. Oh my.
I love that opening.
You said previously that we could treat your inbox as a thread when we get updates in our stories. And when I say my parents fully just rewrote the timeline, I mean, I am on the floor with the update they gave me. Okay. So basically, Jeanyn had sent the whole story and then sent an update being like, read this instead. It also feels appropriate to note I was already on the floor after Corinne's announcement. Congratulations to you and Brian. You're going to be such a beautiful mom. Your child is already so loved and lucky. I fully sat with all this news. So cute.
That's so sweet. Send me children's book recommendations.
In my previous email, I spoke about how my family was haunted by a woman who attached herself to my sister and kept them from coming to America by incapacitating my father the night before their flight. While that is still true, I told a slightly incorrect version. The reality is there's an entire prequel that happened that my mother oh so casually told me tonight over FaceTime. So our conversation began with me asking a series of probing questions about my great-grandfather, who was an albulario, or a witch doctor / medicine man in our village in Iliolio. It's unfortunate family lore that his children, my mom's mom and her siblings, were not interested in continuing the traditions, and so the practice and the magic supposedly went with him as he passed.
Oh, that's sad.
It's said that when that happens, his soul cannot fully rest because he didn't have someone to keep his practice alive. So here I come, 3 generations too late, waving around my tabbed up book of magical herbs, asking my mom if there's anything of his stuff left when they go back to visit Manila or our village in a couple of months. My mom keeps telling me my family will think I sound insane and me repeatedly insisting that I don't care if they think I'm insane. She says, I mean, it's not like I don't believe. You know about what happened with your dad and your sister the night before they came. We called the albulario then. Oh, and, you know, with the dwarves in the fish pond that night, too. I kid you not, I look at my mom and I go, excuse me, ma'am? So I had to find out what happened. So let me start from the beginning, the real beginning of what happened. My mom told me this story. So my parents got married in our village in 1986. Shortly thereafter, they bought a house and moved to Manila to forge a life of their own. Back then, the area where they lived was very open, and of course now it's very heavily congested with government buildings, public transportation, malls, traffic, all the trappings of a large city. But at the time, according to my dad, it was them and maybe 3 other houses on this wide stretch of land. My parents were only the second owners of their house after a Taiwanese couple who had originally built it. As my parents were starting their lives together, they too began to add and build onto the home that they wanted for their eventual growing family. My father has an incredible connection with the land and has the greenest thumb of anyone I've ever known. So, of course, one of his first projects was to dig a fish pond at the edge of their property. Digging a hole in the ground is always better with company, so he enlisted his brother to help him begin carving it out. This is where we think it started, because as he and his brother are carving into the earth, my father discovers bones. Enough bones to make an entire body, except for one major important piece. They never found a head.
Oh, I was just going to say, the head's missing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's freaky. So it was a human body?
I think so. And in a series of events I cannot begin to fathom, my uncle took these bones one by one, placed them in a bag, and reburied them in the opposite corner of the yard under a cherry tree, and then just went right back to digging the fish pond. So at this point, I am yelling at my mother to try to figure out how he wasn't immediately running to the police or at least alerting someone that he found a headless body buried in the yard. Naturally, right? That's what I would do. Well, my mother says with a shrug, it's hard to take it seriously when the land was previously a battleground during World War II when the Japanese occupied the Philippines. It used to be an air base and was raised after the war as to make way for a new development. But I guess not before using it as a mass burial ground for those who had fallen. So, yeah. The headless bones of a potentially fallen World War II soldier live in a corner of my parents' yard.
Great.
days later, after the completion of the fish pond, that our neighbors begin to knock on our door. One of our neighbors was leaving for work early one morning before the sun had even risen, and she saw a woman sitting in the back corner of our yard. Beneath the cherry tree was a woman in white with incredibly long, straight black hair, just staring off into the distance into the dark of night. Our neighbor hurried off, assuring herself it must have just been my mother, unable to sleep after a shift as a nurse. But in the following weeks, many of the neighbors in the neighborhood would come to the door asking why my mother was sitting in the yard under this tree at 6 a.m. every day.
Ooh. Ooh.
Except it couldn't have been my mother because she worked as a nurse, yes, but primarily in a hospital in Dubai. So if she was home, she was off duty and definitely not in uniform.
Yeah.
And the fact that her whole life, she wore short, curly, neck-length hair. Not long, straight, black hair.
Oh, that's so freaky. Because you can't just be like, oh, yeah, my mom goes out there and meditates in the morning before going to work or something like that. Like, it's not her. And for so many people to see it.
I think that's the part, because there's so many neighbors that saw it. It was creepy enough and concerning enough that they had to ask about it.
Right. Yeah.
Fast forward a couple years, my mother's dream comes true and she finally becomes pregnant with my older sister. At that point, she's enjoying being pregnant and spends her mornings lounging in the yard. And she does especially enjoy sitting beneath this cherry tree, picking fruit right off the tree to enjoy for breakfast. It is sickening how much I love her for this, but unfortunately, a neighbor comes along one day. The neighbor who had first left for work that early morning and saw a woman under the tree. This neighbor was also a witch doctor, and this time she comes to my mother in the backyard with a gentle suggestion for her. So if you're going to go outside and eat fruit from a tree, she says, you must wear a dark woolen slip under your clothes to cover your belly. In the Philippines, it is said that dark wool protects against bad spirits, and bits of dark wool are often pinned to young children's clothes. So not tempting fate, my mother did. As I mentioned before, my mother is a nurse who primarily worked abroad, and the goal was always eventually to come to America, and eventually my powerhouse of a mother got approved to work in a hospital in northern New Jersey that sponsored her and a group of other nurses to emigrate. This is wonderful and magical and life-changing for my family, save for the fact that my mother gave birth to my sister 6 months previously and was faced with the impossible task of leaving her newborn child and husband on the opposite side of the world to build this new chapter for us. Yes, I've cried so many times about this. My mom used to say she made zero money those first few months before my father and sister were able to join her because she spent all her money on phone cards to call back home to hear her baby and husband.
Oh, I can't imagine how hard that is. Actually, I do know how hard it is because, well, not from myself, but I had a teacher who moved from Colombia to Vermont, or maybe she wasn't in Vermont first, but she spoke to my English class when we were reading books with the theme of death of self, where you let go of some big part of you or something monumental changes in your life that changes you. And she came in and talked about how hard it was leaving her entire family and coming to America. And she was bawling her eyes out while she was talking about it. And it was so real. And you could see how much it still hurt her.
Oh.
And it broke me because she was one of my favorite teachers too.
So sad.
Senora Rodriguez, you really got me with your story.
I do love that she had such an impact on you that you remember her so greatly.
I think about it a lot.
So it was 1991, so FaceTime or unlimited minutes were still science fiction. You got what minutes you paid for or what photos you got in the mail every week or so. In the time my mother was away, my father was left to take care of my sister. With the previous warning in mind, it was common practice to keep a bit of dark wool pinned to a child for protection, so my sister never really went without it. We think this is why when the woman in white would appear at the edge of the property at the beginning of my sister's nap time each day like clockwork, she could never cross into the house. We wonder if it frustrated her because she would always show up sobbing. Very La Llorona, like I want the little child.
Yeah. And it's also, I don't like that it's always around nap time. There's an intention to steal the child.
Yeah. As the lady appeared, my sister would start screaming. For a while, they weren't sure what to do, but eventually found that lighting and filling the room with incense would calm her down. Later in life, my sister found out about this story herself as a teen, and when she asked my parents why she sleeps best only when there's incense lit, they had to tell her about this experience. Fast forward, it is now the morning my father and sister are planning to finally meet my mother in the U.S. My father's friends and some of my family are throwing them a going-away party, so there's merriment, tons of food, drinking, and I'm assuming karaoke because it's a Filipino party. My father, because of his early 20-plus hour flight alone with an infant, decides to keep his drinking to a minimum, and is just chilling for his last night in our country. That is until later in the night when he begins to feel weird. And in his own words, he says, "My butt turned into a faucet."
What? You pee out your butthole.
If that's too gross, you can just say GI issues. No. I've literally talked about shitting myself on this podcast. Not too weird.
Yeah, we understand. It was liquid, and we've been there.
It's human. It happens. So my father's on the toilet, feeling like hell, wondering what the hell is happening to him. He's dizzy, and he closes his eyes for long periods of time to get his bearings. And it is only when his eyes are closed that he sees her. As he closes his eyes, he sees the woman in white in the backyard, one hand grasping the clothesline and the other in the one direction facing him. Her head turned away from him, so only her long dark hair is facing him. When he opens his eyes, he sees the bathroom. When he closes them, there she is again, outside. With his eyes closed, he looks around the backyard and where she is and where she's pointing to, and he sees a small parade of dwarves complete with drums and long pointed hats marching around the fish pond. At this point, his friends realize something is wrong with him and call the neighboring witch doctor, who comes over to check on him. He says she used a knob of ginger to draw a sigil or make a sign of the cross on his forehead and is quiet for a moment. She clears her throat and declares that there are many powerful things that reside in our home. They don't live there full time, but they come back regularly, if not daily, to check in on us and the land. And if my father wants to make it out of here, he has to go outside and tell what it is outside that he is leaving, but assure them that one day he will come back. Left without a choice, my father hobbles outside and tells each corner of the yard with respect that he must leave, but he promises to return. After, he turns inside and, like a light switch, completely fine. No more issues.
What in the hell?
Feels completely fine. The next morning, or really a few hours later, my father scrapes himself and my sister together for the flight to meet my mom in New Jersey, and 20 plus hours later, they're finally reunited. Which is beautiful, of course, until my mother starts yelling at my father because my sister's in America for the first time in her life, and she's not wearing a cute outfit that she had picked out for her months prior, but is instead in her old nightie, and my father is a walking zombie because a few hours ago, a woman in white, or maybe the ghost of a World War II soldier, or maybe dwarves, I don't know, bodied him with a curse because I didn't want him to leave.
Like the fact that they're doing their own ritual too, it really does seem like they're trying to, beyond the magic and powers that they already have, they're like really trying to bind them to this land. Like, quick, they're about to leave.
As some follow-up, my parents have been back since then. My sister and I were actually there the first time they went back to visit the house in Manila. And I remember it being very beautiful, a quaint house made mostly of wood and cement. But my father said nothing happened that time. And since then, the land got even more developed, and both the tree and the pond sadly got divided off the property and are both currently under buildings that my parents have no control of anymore. So who's to say what actually happens there anymore? My parents are going to go back in a couple of months to check it out again, and I told them to send me pictures of it and potentially get any of my great-grandfather's writings. Thank you, girls, for reading. I really needed to share this with someone who will appreciate how wild this all is. Sorry for the novel, but also not really, because isn't this crazy? Lots of love, Jeanyn.
Jeanyn! This is wild. I cannot get over. Okay, wait. So the chanting in the circle and the dwarves coming out and then the woman in white, it is kind of giving me flashbacks to someone's story, which I don't remember where it was based. But do you remember it was either like dwarves or I think they were calling them like leprechauns or something in the story. But it was out in the fields. There was this circle of little magical beings and one was wearing red. And then the one in red just like turned and looked at them and started sprinting full speed at them. Do you remember that?
Okay, I don't know if I'm mixing that one up because there was one from a younger listener who spends a lot of time with the Fae out in their backyard, but that might be different. I don't know.
I think that was different. It's one of those things where it's like whenever someone brings up dwarves or the Fae or anything like this, I feel like a lot of times there's fear with it because we don't understand what's going on and what they're doing. But at the same time, these are the experiences where I'm like, they are so lucky to have gotten a moment to experience this and to see this. Even though I'm sure they didn't feel lucky in the moment because they were horrified. Their dad's peeing out his butthole. Like it's wrecking them. And how scary that they were doing. They were up to something, those creatures.
They for sure
it was like
were.
Everybody from the land came forward and worked to seal them there.
There is a little bit of like, if I were the spirits on that land and the person who like built my home and like this beautiful pond and added to this land and like really cultivated it, all of a sudden was leaving and wasn't saying goodbye to me, I would be like, excuse me. And also I wasn't invited to your goodbye party. Excuse me. Pay attention to me. And of all the like terrible things that could happen, yeah, peeing out of your butthole sucks and doesn't feel great, but it's not really like life altering, or it's not like damaging.
Yeah, right. But it's meant to slow you down. It's meant to make you feel like you can't leave your house because if you do, you might have an accident. So it's like really effective in keeping you there for some more time.
It was really effective in getting attention, which they got, and then they were able to leave because they basically just wanted an acknowledgement.
But it's like, why do you need to be invited? Specifically, the woman in white. I'm talking to you, girl. Why do you need to be invited to a party that you've tried to steal the baby from this family multiple times
But
before?
has she?
Why do you think that there's good blood there?
But we don't know that she's tried to steal the baby.
True.
As far as we know, she just enjoyed sitting under the cherry tree. She maybe felt some endearment towards this child and just was curious and watching. She never, as far as we know, never made it inside the house.
True. But she was also sobbing too, which we could play it the other way, where it's like when you're really upset, seeing like a puppy or a baby, it really does bring some joy into your life. So maybe it was like she would always be really upset. So she's like, oh, well, it's nap time for the baby. Let me just go peek a little glance at that cute little face and I'll feel a little bit better now.
I also wonder if she was like feeling the feelings of Jeanyn's mom.
Mm-hmm. Although, here's the thing. We say that she could have not had any ill intent towards the family or towards this child. But Jeanyn literally said her sister would not sleep and was terrified unless they did incense and different things that do ward off darker presences.
Well, we don't know, but it sounds like there is some peace. I'm curious if like where the new buildings are, if anyone experiences anything with these spirits.
Yeah.
But I do love just like how the culture there is just so accepting and open and understanding of like the fact that there are things and entities and beings that we don't know. And we just have to pay them respect and treat them with respect. I feel like that's very much our community too, but I wish it was everywhere.
Yeah. Dang. I mean, that's some intense. Here's the thing. If we literally, was it last Encounters episode that we were reading a story from Mexico and we're like, Mexico's so haunted. We always say it is. And then you were like, yeah, and the Philippines. Mm-hmm. And now we have a story from the Philippines. Those two places, we always know there's going to be some sort of like magic or other beings or like, it's just so intense the way that the paranormal culminates in
because they embrace it.
Geographical locations. They have more power because there's more belief.
Yeah. Anyway, we also are certain that you all are haunted. So please email us your experiences, your encounters to twogirlsoneghostpodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you want episodes 1 week early and ad-free, and if you want bonus episodes and to join on Camp Fairy Stories, join us on Patreon and you get all of that and more for just $5 a month.
It's pretty sweet. You can rate and review wherever you listen. Tell everybody about us. Follow us on social media with Instagram, TikTok. You can watch us on YouTube. All of those types of things. And shout out to Jamie, who edits our audio and video and edits our bonus episodes that we put on Patreon, which are full-length episodes.
And thank you to all of you. We love you so much.
And we will see you on the other side.